Hi everyone and welcome. I am Chaitanya. You're watching Chai with Chaitanya. This is a place where I talk about books, movies and fandom. And today I'm here to talk about The Clockwork Angel, which is the first book in the Infernal Devices trilogy by Cassandra Clare. And this happens to be my first Cassandra Clare book. So I am quite excited to talk about it and tell you guys what I personally felt. So please note that this is a non-spoiler review and let's go ahead and get started. Before I go ahead, I hope that you guys have subscribed to my channel and please give it a thumbs up if you like my content. It really helps me get out there and reach more people. First things first, I don't think I really need to go in depth about the synopsis of this book because this book is very heavily reviewed by far. However, I will tell you that in here you get to meet Tessa, who is like us, a human, a mortal, and she goes ahead to London after she receives a letter from her brother Nate, who's been living in London for quite some time. And when she goes to London, she finds out that Nate is not there, that he's been missing, that he's been kidnapped by some sort of a person who she doesn't know who it is. And that is where she ends up meeting the Shadowhunters, and the Shadowhunters promise her that they will help Tessa find her brother Nate, and we'll find out that what exactly is behind this, and we just sort of go from there. As I said in the beginning of this video, this is my first Cassandra Clare book, and that is partly due to the reason that I had watched the Netflix show for The Mortal Instruments and it did not really captivate me, besides the fact that I absolutely fell in love with Alex and Magnus's relationship. Besides that, it sort of failed to capture my interest because I felt that the story kept moving in circles, and every single episode they had a new beast, or Valentine, who was Clary's father, used to send somebody, and then these people used to chase after them, then they kill them, and then somebody new used to come. So I was constantly tired with the repetitiveness of the thing that used to happen, so I never wanted to go back and pick that book up. So I wanted to read this particular trilogy because I had heard so much from everybody, and everybody kept talking about how great the characters were, and the fan arts that I happened to see on Bookstagram were amazing, and it definitely made me feel that I'm missing out on a lot. So I just went ahead and read it, and now that I've read it, I do not really understand what all the hype is all about, because I don't really think that I loved it, because I definitely did not. In fact, I feel that I just felt very neutral towards this book. I did not hate it, but I also did not love it, and I think that when a book sort of makes me feel that way, it just means that the book was unable to do either of those two things. So the author kind of failed to reach to me and connect with me. So in this video, I would not really be talking about the story and the plot and the way normally I do reviews, but I just tell you all the things that I felt while reading this book, and that would just in a way sum up my review for this book. So let's get started. One of the first things that I felt while reading this book very early on in the story was the fact that I think that this book is aimed at a younger audience on the YA spectrum. I felt that the writing was very juvenile, in fact even amateur, because it felt as if I'm reading a book that would have appealed to me if I was like, let's say, 12-year-old, 13-year-old, or maximum 15-year-old. But as a 21-year-old, I had a hard time reading this book because of its writing. So now, since this book is set in the 1800s, I do believe, and it is a historical fiction, I was told that this has gothic elements as a part of it because, we have the Victorian England setting. But I did not really spot all those Victorian things that people talked about or promised in their reviews on Goodreads or even here on BookTube. So I'm not sure if I was not able to pick that up or if they were actually not there. Now next up, I want to talk a little about all the things that I heard about the characters. That is to say that I'd heard a lot about these characters. As I said, I'd seen insanely good character art prints, and I thought that these characters were very average, in the sense that yes, they were very relatable, and yes, it was easy to connect with them, and yes, it was easy to follow them, but I did not really see the need to me being constantly engaged in their journeys. Like, I understand that Jem is going through his problem with the thing that he's addicted to, the health condition that he has because of it. I also understand that Will has a past which is very messy, which is why he's the way he is. I also see how Tessa is trying to come in terms with the fact that what has happened with her and with her brother. but none of these were able to hold my attention in a way where I would be very excited to root for any of these characters until the end. In fact, that is one of the biggest problems that I had with this book while reading it, that I did not really feel anything very strongly for any of these characters. Coming to the love triangle that I was promised, now I really did not see any sort of romantic ship or any sort of romance blossoming between either of the two sides that it was possible, between Tessa and Jem or between Tessa and Will, until the very end of the book. And even towards the end, I could just see a bit of spark, and I'm not sure Cassandra wanted this book to deal only with friendship so that she can lay a foundation and then work with the romance in the second and the third book. But what I will tell you is that even if there is a potential romance between both these characters, I mean between Tessa and Jem and then Tessa and Will, then I should have seen that somewhere. I really vouch for either of these two couples because I did not really feel that there was enough sexual, emotional, romantic conflict or tension for that to happen. I personally felt that Will was being Will, that is, he is like that, right? He is flirtatious, he is always that person who just says whatever he wants to say. So I would really not consider that as tension or Will consciously flirting with Tessa. And in case with Jem, I felt that he was too much into himself, not in a bad way. Like, he just was very reserved and very quiet, and he had a lot going on in his life as well, probably because of that, but did not really see anything apart from friendship between Tessa and Will and Tessa and James. So I don't know where the love is coming from, and I'm really keen to see that if the love at all is there or not. In terms of story and plot, I think I can say that I really did not predict the way Tessa's brother Nate's story was handled and the plot twist that was included in. So that was good, but apart from that, I did not really see anything that would hold my attention again. And that is to say that because I felt that a lot of this story and a lot of this book felt very similar to the Mortal Instruments, even though, as I said, I've not read the Mortal Instruments, but I've watched the show. I strongly feel that the names and the setting are the only two things that have changed between Mortal Instruments and the Infernal Devices, at least book 1, and everything else, including character arcs and the voices of these characters, felt very similar. Even the action of this book was very similar. So I think that is what kept me from liking this book or enjoying this book as much as I thought I would. Somewhere in the story, Magnus Bane also came in, and I was really excited to see him because he is one of my favorite characters from the Mortal Instruments, but I was disappointed to see the role he was given in this book, and I hope that it improves in the next 2 books. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars, and in my opinion it was just very average, and I would have actually not picked up the second and the third book in this trilogy had I not felt very bad about starting a trilogy and then never finishing it. And also because of the fact that I want to see that where does the romance and where do these characters go from here. And I'm saying that I will not like these characters or their stories in the future. I definitely can, but as of now I just do not really have any strong feeling or strong opinion about any of them. And that's pretty much it. I do not know when I will be reading the second and the third book, but I will eventually get around to picking them up. So that's pretty much it for this one. And if you've read this, I would love to know what you feel. Them down in the comment section below. And that's it for this one, and I will be seeing you super soon. Bye.